Hi, everyone. Today I'm discussing a topic that no one wants to think about, but everyone needs to understand. Employees arrive with their coffee and prepare for another ordinary workday. But within minutes, their world transforms into something out of their worst nightmares. A gunman has entered their workplace. And then, this isn't a story designed to frighten you. It's a story designed to prepare you. Because the uncomfortable truth is that workplace violence has become an increasingly common threat in modern America. From corporate offices to retail stores, from hospitals to educational institutions, no workplace is immune. But there's hope in preparation, power in knowledge, and a chance for survival when you understand and what to do in those critical moments. Because when seconds count, you don't have time to figure things out. You need to already know. Welcome to That's Life, I swear. This podcast is about life's happenings in this world that conjure up such words as intriguing, frightening, life-changing, inspiring, and more. I'm Rick Barron, your host. That said, here's the rest of this story. So what to do in an active shooter situation? That's the question. Workplaces across the country are increasingly being asked to prepare for a situation so horrifying that most people hope they will never have to face it. Yet incidents in recent years have shown that employees must be forced to make life or death choices with little warning. For a long time, the standard guidance could be summed up in a simple trio of instructions: run, hide, fight. Well, that model still exists, but many specialists in corporate and public safety now argue that the reality of these emergencies is far more complicated. They emphasize that survival can depend on a wider range of actions: blocking entry points with makeshift barricades, escaping through unconventional exits like windows, or creating diversions to confuse an attacker. Now, according to current training programs, the most effective responses in an active shooter crisis now involve a broader, more adaptive set of strategies designed to help people react under extreme pressure. When confronted with an active threat, the human body's stress response kicks into overdrive. Adrenaline floods the system, heart rate spikes, and the brain shifts into survival mode. In this heightened state, the most effective action is also the most intuitive. Create as much distance as possible between yourself and the threat. So what does run, hide, fight actually mean? Training courses use a variety of names to describe the basic active shooter protocol, but the tactics are largely the same. The priority in run, hide, fight is the run, security specialists say. You want to escape if you can, said Jim Hayes, a veteran of the Department of Homeland Security, who now advises companies in his role as a vice president at the security firm Guidepost Solutions. If running away from the scene isn't an option, try to find a hiding spot in a out-of-the-way room. Some companies also teach ABC, an acronym that instructs people to avoid the threat, barricade themselves, and as a last resort, confront the assailant. Other training programs prefer ALICE, which stands for alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. The bottom line is the same. Running or getting out gives you the best chance of success. If you can't do that, what's the next best option? Time to barricade. Now, what are the most effective ways to hide or create a barricade? During an incident, it's common practice employees go to the restrooms, conference spaces, and other secluded corners of the building. Some even drape blankets or jackets across interior windows to make sure their locations are harder to detect. Others quickly push couches, rolling chairs, and office desks against doors to slow down any attempt at entry. According to security professionals, even a brief delay can be life-saving, giving police additional time to reach the scene. Now, experts recommend using the sturdiest objects available: large tables, heavy desks, metal filing cabinets, or storage units to block doorways or restrict access. When choosing a hiding spot, they advise positioning yourself along the wall nearest the exit, but remaining out of direct view. This placement can provide a very narrow opportunity to either slip away if the assailant passes by or, as a last resort, to disrupt the attacker's approach. Because many attackers are aware that the law enforcement will arrive quickly, they often avoid rooms that appear difficult to breach. Safety instructors note that a locked or heavily barricaded space is enough to persuade an assailant to move on. As one security consultant observed, many attackers won't waste valuable time trying to force their way into a space that's clearly secured. Can you plan for any of this in advance? Yes, says Dale Buckner, chief executive of the security firm Global Guardian. Creating a what-if escape plan can save seconds, even minutes, in an emergency. Take the run. Do you know where the various exits and access points are in your workplace? If elevators are shut off, would you know how to get downstairs? If a colleague is in a wheelchair or is older and might need assistance, who is ready to help them? You see, it's these little things that matter. Map out your office to determine which rooms are more secure from gunfire if you need to hide. This could be a conference room without windows or a storage closet with cinder block walls. So sometimes the other question that people will ask themselves, well, why don't we just pull the fire alarm? Well, that sounds like a great idea, but federal law enforcement officials advise against that. People are conditioned to immediately evacuate a building when they hear the alarm, potentially putting them in harm's way when they may not even know what's happening. The fire alarm also risks disabling elevators, which could be needed to help injured people, or unlocking certain doors, increasing a shooter's ability to move throughout a building. So how do you know when it's time to hide and when it's time to fight? Fighting is seen as a last resort, and hopefully not one you will need to confront. But when a gunman has found your hiding place and is pointing a weapon in your direction, it is time to switch from hiding to confronting. Not an easy decision to make. Now, fighting can mean throwing something at the gunman, a fire extinguisher, a chair, even a handful of pins, to create a distraction, improvising a weapon, or creating chaos in the room by yelling and running around. Law enforcement officials recommend that when in fight mode, it is best to act aggressively as much as you can. Now, if you're in lockdown, where should you look for updates and how should you communicate? First of all, silence all electronic devices. If possible, text or send direct messages to law enforcement over social media to share your location. Try to report any active shooter emergency via 911 first. Use social media only as a backup, not as a replacement for contacting emergency services directly. Now, what if your employer doesn't provide active shooter training? Where can workers turn? It's a good question. Employees whose companies do not offer formal training still have several options. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency website provides extensive public guidance on preparing for workplace violence, offering materials for both employees and organizational leaders. The FBI also shares videos and practical tips on its website to help individuals understand how to respond in a crisis. In addition, many local police departments, community college, school districts, and government organizations host training sessions that anyone can attend, regardless of where they work. Now, what should comprehensive training cover? Another good question. Effective programs go beyond repeating the familiar run, hide, fight framework. Security professionals stress the importance of helping workers recognize behaviors or comments that may signal escalating risk. Statements involving retaliation, fascination with weapons, or suggestions of harming others should never be dismissed. Any troubling remarks or warnings should be passed along to managers or human resources immediately. Brian Stevens of Tenlo, a security advisor and former chief security officer for Bank of America, notes that coworkers are often the first to observe meaningful shifts in someone's behavior. It's the people around them who notice when something is off, he explains. Many specialists also encourage organizations to incorporate Stop the Bleed instruction, a nationwide initiative that equips everyday people with the skills to stabilize victims with severe injuries until medics arrive. After-action reviews of the 2016 Pulse nightclub tragedy in Florida revealed that several victims might have survived had immediate bleeding control measures been provided. Other incidents, particularly in schools, students' lives have been saved because teachers knew how to pack the wounds or apply tourniquets correctly. So what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? The lessons embedded in active threat preparedness extend far beyond the specific tactical responses. They reveal uncomfortable truths about modern life, while at the same time offering empowering insights about human capacity for resilience and adaptation. The randomness and horror of workplace violence can feel overwhelming. These incidents seem to strike without warning, offering no chance for response. But that perception isn't accurate. While you cannot prepare when or where danger might appear, you can absolutely prepare for how you will respond. If there's a single overarching message from modern active threat training, it's this: you have more control over your survival than you think. Well, there you go, my friends. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which can be found on Apple Podcasts, for show notes and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for the privilege of you listening and your interest. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you soon.